Let's see, let's get rid of this Orne. The Atlantic. It's not a particularly cruiser-friendly map, like many high-tier maps are. Tier 10. Yamato Kurfürst, Missouri. I mean, the matchmaking is pretty okay. It's not too bad for you. There's not some of the, like, there's no Moskva, which is nice. Moskva is actually pretty nasty against the Hindenburg. The AP and HE kind of eat you alive. Pretty average matchmaking, I would say. You're running spotter plane, I like that. Based on your range, you're running reload mod. This looks like my build, which of course gets a thumbs up from me, since I am totally unbiased when I say that my build is good. Pushing in to support your DDs, I like that as well. I would love to see your turrets turn the other way though. Because if your turns are this way, it means you're planning on turning left. And are you really planning on turning left here? Because if you turn left here... See, I don't like this. I don't like this turret setup. Are you really planning on turning left here? Because, again, let's say a DD spots you right now. You turn left, shoot him. Battleship shoots from here. Battleship shoots from here. How the hell do you evade those shells? How the hell do you evade being citadeled at the start? See, this works if their entire team goes down here. This works if their entire team goes down here. But what if there's a battleship where this Minotaur is? What if there's a battleship where this Minotaur is? How the hell do you deal with that? I don't like this. I don't like this at all. This is such a huge risk. If I was playing a Montana or Turpitz or whatever the hell was back there, I would have citadeled the shit out of you during this turn. This full turn, I would have citadeled the absolute shit out of you. That initial turn, way too risky. Way too risky. You got away with not taking nearly as much damage as you basically should have. I mean, you helped get the DD wrecked, which was fine, but I think turning in the open... the problem with this turn here was you exposed broadside to the entire horseshoe-shaped enemy fleet. And you got very lucky that they had no battleship over here who wanted to punish you. This kind of turn is a big no for me. Big no. Way too risky. Way too goddamn risky. I like the initial path, mostly because I thought you would turn to the right. And why is turning to the right so much better than turning to the left? Because when you turn to the right, first of all, the enemy team can't have made it this far yet, meaning it's safe. Second of all, there's terrain. There's an island here. You can get into cover. You can disengage whenever you want. When you turn left, there's no option to disengage. You're gonna get shot at and shot at and shot at until you get undetected, which you will get only if your DDs win the fight. If your DDs are losing, you will be spotted and farmed the entire way through. So, no, I don't. The initial turn I did not like at all. Too risky. Too much of a risk. Absolutely too much of a risk. You got away with it, but that doesn't mean it was something I would ever recommend. Shimakaze pushing down south should be your focus target. Help your gearing, help your gearing. Switch to HE, turn right. Okay, a bit lack of map awareness here. That's fine. It's sometimes hard to keep track of these things when you're trying to shoot at the same time, but if you see your DDs engaging other DDs, you really want to help them. That's absolutely a priority. And the Shima who's down here isn't nearly as important as the Shima who's trying to push into our backlines. You need to be pretty careful with your... You should honestly, I would stop shooting and get undetected. I don't like the path you're going in. And I don't like it because, once again, you're about to get crossfired. These guys keep pushing in, they force you to angle this way, and then you have two battleships down here. So you can't really angle. You're forced to keep going straight. If you stop shooting, you still have the option to use this smoke to disengage. But the deeper you go, the more into basically shit creek you're paddling. Wait until you get undetected before turning. Wait until you get undetected before... You lucky motherfucker. Lucky as fuck. Holy shit, I did not like that sailing at all. So goddamn lucky. I did not like that. Both of these paths I have hated. Way too risky. Way too risky. If you're spotted, you might as well shoot. Switch to HE, start farming in the Missouri. You're actually undetected. Neptune is about to peek out. Focus the Neptune on your left. You see he's peeking out. You might even want to pop your spotter plane to see him better. Neptune, Neptune. With spotter plane you can probably shoot him through that little gap. He's actually peeking out. Dude, he's actually peeking out. AP on Neptune, please. Okay, once again, tunnel vision. Too much tunnel vision. This Minotaur Neptune combos should absolutely have gotten punished for that kind of peek. Should absolutely have gotten punished for that kind of peek. That Neptune is an idiot. He gives you so much broadside. Switch to AP. Switch to AP. Please switch to AP. Please switch to AP. Why are you not punishing these idiots? Why are you not punishing them? Okay. These should not be allowed to get away with this. This should not be allowed to happen. You don't need to turn to shoot them. Just use your back guns, fire AP. That's 6 goddamn AP shells into their citadel that you could be farming right now. I don't know why you're not shooting. I assume you want to get undetected, but the Minotaur is kind of keeping track of you, so you're staying detected regardless. So there's literally no point in this. That was a lot of missed damage. That was a lot of missed potential damage. And now you're giving broadside to the Missouri. You don't need to be giving broadside to shoot him. You can use your back guns. You have 6 guns in the back. You can be using those. When you give broadside, you make yourself such a huge target. If you're angled, you're still dealing 50% of your damage, but you are extremely hard to deal damage to him. Yeah. Big issues with this has been positioning. Positioning and planning how and where you're going to disengage. I think the biggest issue with both of these initial turns was the first time when you turned to the left, you didn't plan how to disengage at all. Like if there was a battleship here who blapped you, you would have just gotten wrecked. More planning on what is a safe route and what isn't. And same thing when pushing down this way. I don't think you planned ahead of how the hell you were going to disengage from that position. Bob in Bismarck? Bob 86. Pop your spotter plane, start farming the Monarch. There's a reason why this build runs the spotter plane, and that's to allow you to play safer, longer distance and still be able to deal consistent heavy damage. Use it. There's no reason for you to be closing the distance right now. You want to wait for that additional heal. You are so low right now, it's probably not worth closing the distance, it's too much. Just start farming some damage on the Monarch. The Monarch is pushing in like an idiot. Look at him. He's right there. Free farm damage. So much damage could be farmed. So much damage could be farmed. You haven't used a single spotter plane. You are wasting a lot of your potential. You're chasing the Missouri when you could be chasing the Missouri and popping a spotter plane and dealing damage to him at the same time. There's there's a lot of missed damage going on in this game. A lot of potential damage you could be farming that you're missing out on. Shimakaze is an idiot. That's amazing for you. Not quite enough lead there. Don't be afraid to switch to torps. When your guns are reloading like this, switch to your torps. When your guns are reloading and you're fighting a DD at close range, switch to your torps. It will tell you how fast he's going, it will tell you if he's slowing down, if he's accelerating, all sorts of valuable information that will help you land those shells. So whenever you're shooting at a DD at close range, if you're even a bit uncertain about his speed, just switch to your torps between shells. Sitting with your guns as they're reloading won't give you any additional information, whereas switching to your torps will give you a lot of fantastic information. Can you use shift, please? Oh yeah, I totally haven't pressed shift once. Thank you for the good advice, chat. Finally, this monarch is being farmed, which he hopefully should have been a while ago. Shimakaze getting himself spotted by Bismarck. How on earth did he mess that up? Have you tried pressing shift? I know, right? Have I considered pressing shift? Maybe that will fix the bug. You were talking about his mouse wheel usage. Ah. But he's using shift now. Yay! He popped the spotter plane! Okay, I'm actually really glad. It's a bit late, but it happened. Kurfürst. Kurfürst is lower HP. Switch to AP, farm the Kurfürst. There's no reason to be shooting HE if they're giving full broadside. You should be switching to AP. Kurfürst is dead. You should absolutely... If you haven't caused any fires yet and forced any damage cons, use AP on broadsides. Absolutely AP. But yeah, this game, positioning, map awareness, escape routes, pre-planning especially. I feel like there was very little thought put into how there was an initial plan, or initial goal. I'm gonna go here and I'm gonna support my team. But then there was no follow-up thought on, okay, once I've supported my team, how the hell do I get out of that situation without getting killed? And that's something you really need to consider, because there was a lot of situations there where you potentially could have gotten punished extremely hard, but didn't. And mostly because of luck. Sun Tzu, how do you draw this kind of feedback? I literally ask for people to send me average replays. So, and people who send these replays are literally sending them with the goal of improving. So, I don't know why you would draw that kind of feedback. Or that kind of conclusions. Let's see, what is this? A Grosse Kurfürst game. Please don't judge me, chat. Chat is always going to be judge. Chat is always going to be judging you. But it's always easier to judge someone based on stuff said afterwards. Or it's always easier to point out mistakes in replays than notice the mistakes yourself when you're playing. The idea that someone makes no mistakes during a game is ridiculous. I can open my own replays and point out tons of mistakes that I make during them. That's because it's so much easier to critically analyze what is the best decision when you're not making the decision yourself, or when you have time to consider it without focusing on all the other factors. So here we have
But I wonder. I think I am actually humble.
Doma42, thank you for the 5 months. No worries. And I mean...
Thank you for helping with my replay. I sure will improve.
Okay, I think... Were you the Hindenburg? I think... planning. Have an initial plan. Like, try to have a goal in mind of how you're going to play the game. Like, you want to go here, you want to do this, you want to move on and do this and this and this and so forth. More planning put into how the match is going to play. So this is a Kurfürst build. Concealment 15.9, so that means no concealment expert. The problem with running no concealment expert on the Kurfürst is of course that you're significantly more vulnerable to HE spam because you struggle to disengage. I assume if you're not running concealment expert, then you're at least running fire prevention, because if you run neither concealment expert nor fire prevention, then you are basically an XP Pinata for every single HE cruiser. You're in a division with a Gearing and a Moskva, so that's an extremely strong division. Gearing, scouting, smoke, Moskva, radar, AA cover, and of course Kurfürst very tanky, a lot of firepower, so ideally this should be an extremely strong division. You're running fighter plane instead of spotter plane. I don't really like that. For example, right now a spotter plane would allow you to see. A spotter plane in that situation would have allowed you to line up a perfect shot on the Hindenburg. But because you're running fighter plane, you struggle to get any sort of decent shot off, because it makes it so much harder. NGO Cartel, thank you for the 2 months. There's multiple situations where the spotter plane is just going to be a lot better. Edinburgh giving full broadside, that's very kind of him. Oh wow, that's a free kill if I... He's turning away, so you need to aim high. Is he actually turning away? No, he's kind of going straight... No, he's turning away slightly. He really wanted to get Citadel, huh? That guy really wanted to get Citadel. Torps starting to pop up. At least 2 DDs spotted down here. Probably worth popping Hydra at this point. Just because you see 4 Torps doesn't mean that you're seeing all of them. There could be another volley coming this way. There could be another layer of Torps coming behind. Counting on that these are the only Torps at this point is extremely risky. And I would probably have popped Hydra there. There were in fact additional Torps. You only see one, once again, no Hydra. This is kind of scary. I would pop Hydra, absolutely. You've only seen 1 Torp, because your DD detected it. You don't know if there's additional Torps. There is additional Torps. This is exactly what I was afraid of. Okay, important note. If you are within enemy DD range, as soon as you consider it even a risk that there might be Torps around, pop your Hydra. And if you see a single Torp coming your way like that, you can almost bet there's going to be additional Torps around it. The only Torp, you see that Torp because your teammates detected it. You don't see that Torp because you detected it yourself. So you need to be popping Hydra as soon as that situation occurs. Once again, where is your Hydro? Do you know there's additional Torps here? No, you don't. Your DD spotted these. You don't know if there's Torps coming from this direction. Hydro, you're not using it, still not using it. Absolutely should be popping Hydro. Absolutely should be using that consumable. Absolutely, you should also be turning away and starting to kite at this point. You should stop pushing in. You're already extremely close to dying because you have a permanent flooding, and there's a high chance you will be going down, so you should be disengaging and trying to survive and buy yourself as much time as possible. So at this point, you should be turning around to the right and getting the hell out of this situation, because you will probably still live, because you are about to get your heal up and you're about to get your repair up. The problem is, since you keep pushing in, even if you get these consumables up, you're so close to the enemy that they will have an easy time finishing you off. So get the hell out of this situation. I think it's too late now. Ideally, you could go into the smoke. You could stop firing and just go into the smoke. Smokes still work perfectly fine for battleships as long as you aren't firing. But since you are firing, the Monarch will be shooting HE, and he will be starting fires, and you're about to reverse into this torpedo. Are you paying attention? Okay, you are. Good. Whew. Okay, you're undetected. No reason to shoot. You shouldn't shoot. Okay, if you don't have damage con ready, if you have 46 seconds left on your damage con, and there's a Monarch on the other side, someone who you know, a Royal Navy battleship, you almost know is going to be guaranteed shooting HE at you. You don't want to be firing. You want to wait, play it safe, play passive, take your time, and wait until you have your repair up again. Because if you got extremely lucky and he didn't start any fires, but if he had gotten even one fire there, you might have probably have died. Because you don't have your damage con ready. So, in general, I always say a battleship should play the most defensive when damage con is on cooldown. Whenever damage con is on cooldown, you play safe. Because you are missing such a huge tool, such a huge safety net. As long as this one isn't available. Only once you have damage control active can you be picking the fights again. But in general, especially if you have the option to disengage, as you did here thanks to these smokes, you have the option of staying undetected. You should use it. It's okay to not be shooting for 50 seconds. It's perfectly fine. Just play it safe and don't take an unnecessary risk. Torpedo is giving you a lot of broadside. Torps from the right. Are you aware where they are? Looks like you are now. Luckily, they are whiffing pretty heavily. That is good. Oh, the gearing is that far away. Well, that makes life pretty easy. Oh, and there's nice battleship-sized gaps in them. I don't think those were even widespread. It's just that he launched them so far away that a nice gap had developed in them. Are you secondary building this? In your Kurfürst? Okay, so I don't recommend secondary build at all. If this is secondary build. The reason I don't recommend secondary build, I mean it's fun for shits and giggles and all of that, but the problem with secondary builds are that they are extremely situational. And anything that's extremely situational is usually pretty garbage. Because if you need a situation to play your ship to its full strength, then it's probably not a very strong build. It's kind of like going full AA. It's nice if you queue with a carrier, but if you're queuing solo, not really that valuable. Honestly, since you seem to like to play fairly aggressive, based on this commentary, you should probably go for my tank build that I use for my Kurfürst. I think I have a tank build commentary on my YouTube. I think the tank build fits your playstyle pretty well since you like playing aggressive. But ultimately, even with the tank build, you still have to pay attention to things like popping Hydra when you see torps coming your way. Should be pretty obvious. And also holding your fire when damage control is on cooldown. Because that's just an unnecessary risk. What's the best 4-point perk to take first on Kurfürst? Concealment Expert or Fire Prevention? Ideally, they kind of both serve the same purpose. They give you additional survivability. Kurfürst doesn't really have good enough stealth to be able to open up from concealment and surprise cruisers and such things. But having that Concealment Expert gives you a nice chunk of survivability. Ultimately though, I would say Fire Prevention first is probably better. I would take Concealment Expert as a 14-pointer straight after that. Because the thing is, if you run into a carrier, well, if it is... carrier with HE bombs, then if you don't have fire prevention, you're gonna eat so many fires. Because carriers love attacking core forces. These days though, there's so many AP bombs that it probably doesn't have as much value, but then again, if you run into Royal Navy battleships like the Conqueror, then not having fire prevention will cost you heavily. So fire prevention is probably the safest first 4-point perk. Would you suggest concealment build for Yamato? Yes, I like it. Yamato is already such a stationary ship, and being able to disengage between volleys is extremely valuable. That volley looks pretty damn good. He's accelerating right underneath that. Dispersion, of course. He does go down, and looks like this game will pretty much be over at this point. I don't think there's too much else to look at here. You might be able to farm some damage over the island, especially if you have spotter plane. Oh wait. Another reason why I recommend spotter plane. See how hard it is to line up this shot? You have to tap M, you have to use the map trick, basically. You tap M briefly to get a bird's eye perspective, but it's still extremely hard. This is once again another reason why I highly recommend running the spotter plane. It helps you out in multiple situations. Not just shooting into smokes, but multiple situations where there's terrain involved. Right, let's move on to the next one. Let us move on to the next one. I think this one is pretty over. They're gonna cap the base, and that's gonna be the end of it. Right, give me those replays.